My dad saw Elvis and a few others standing in the driveway, talking to a teenager with a bandaged hand. When Elvis noticed my father, still dressed in his army uniform, he yelled, "Let him in," to a guard near the gates. My father learned that Elvis had assisted the teenager 2 nights earlier when he'd been in a motorcycle accident near Graceland, and the teen had returned to thank him. My dad lucked out. He got to see Elvis and now had a story. My father stopped by Graceland a few more times the following year, along with a friend, a reporter for the Memphis Press-Scimitar, who was also looking for Elvis-related pieces. They became friendly with a guard at the gates named Travis Smith, who happened to be Elvis's uncle. One evening, Travis invited my dad to bring my mom and join Elvis at a local movie theater called the Memphis, where Elvis often treated others to movie showings. It was the only way he could watch a movie out of the public eye. As Travis had requested, my parents drove to Graceland and waited in their car by the front gates. Before long, a few other cars emerged from around back of the mansion and, as they exited the driveway, my father eased in behind them and followed. It was well after midnight when my parents arrived at the theater, its marquee dark, showing it was closed to the public. They saw Elvis and a few others already out of their cars and talking, so they approached them. Recognizing my dad, Elvis shook his hand and my father introduced my mother. The group soon entered the lobby and Elvis walked over to the food counter while my parents and some other guests made their way inside to get seats. Before long, Elvis came walking down the aisle with popcorn in hand. Upon noticing my father again, he tossed out jokingly, "Hey, Sarge, I'm ready to go back into the Army." My dad replied, "We'll be glad to have you back." Elvis screened 2 movies that night, and it wouldn't be until the wee hours of the morning when everyone left the theater. Not long afterward, Travis invited my parents for a second outing, telling them Elvis was renting the Memphis Fairgrounds amusement park, and friends and guests were welcome to bring their children. Travis and his wife were going along this time, and he told my dad when and where to meet them after the park closed to the public. I was 5 years old when I rode with my family to the fairgrounds that night. Although I was too young to remember much, that evening became a memorable experience for my entire family. My brother and one of his friends drove separately. A security guard led us into the entrance of the amusement park, where we waited alongside other invited guests. Travis arrived and introduced his wife Lorraine to my parents. Before long, a black car slowly pulled up to the entrance and the security guard waved it inside. The car came to a stop, and Elvis stepped out, dressed in a dark shirt with dark pants and wearing a white captain's hat. My most vivid memory is one of seeing Elvis shake hands with people and thinking he must be important, for his face looked just like the ones I'd seen on some record sleeves at home. My parents greeted Elvis, and as my father introduced each one of us, Elvis shook hands with Mike and Rosemary, then patted Terry and me on our heads. When my mom mentioned that my brother was taking guitar lessons, Elvis joked, "I've got one at home he can have because I can't play the thing." Everyone laughed, and then the group continued inside, following Elvis to the park's large wooden roller coaster, a ride that would remain one of his favorites. Elvis climbed into the front car with his date, Bonnie Bunkley, and as the seats began to fill, Travis approached my mom. "Want to ride with me?" he asked. Never having been on a roller coaster before, she told him yes, as long as he picked a safe and not too scary seat. They ended up sitting in the very last car, which, unbeknownst to my mom, was notorious for being rough. My father and Lorraine Smith sat in the car in front of them, while my siblings and I stood by to watch. Screams of fright and laughter echoed from the ride as it raced by us multiple times before finally coming to a halt. When everyone got out, my mother, a little rattled but smiling, told Travis, "I think I might just have a heart attack right here." Elvis continued through the park with his date and some friends, while my parents took my sisters and me to the kiddie section. My brother and his friend decided to wander the park alone. A concession stand was open to all of us, and we got to enjoy the rides as many times as we wanted. Our special night was over too soon. Catching up with Travis and Elvis, my parents thanked them for our amazing evening. Mike and his friend begged my parents to let them stay longer. They didn't return home until nearly sunrise. Later, still excited, Mike told my parents that Elvis and his friends had divided into groups, and he got to drive the Dodgem cars with them. Then Elvis sent someone across the street to get milkshakes at a place with 2 large polar bears out front called the Polar Bear Frozen Custard Shop. I didn't know it then, but that night was just a preview of Elvis's giving nature.